Hi. Hi guys.
Hi.
And welcome back to another video. Black History Month as we read
Little legends, exceptional men in Black history.
Awesome. We're going to get right into it. So today we're reading about Langston Hughes.
And he's a poet.
From 1902 to 1967.
So that means he writes everything.
He writes poetry.
Poetry.
Poetry is when you write words and sentences that rhyme. That's poetry. I'll have to get some Langston Hughes poems for you so you would understand what it is.
Okay.
Langston Hughes moved around a lot as a child. His parents traveled looking for work. His father to Mexico and his mother throughout the Midwest. Langston was left to be raised by his grandmother but felt abandoned by his parents. His only comforts were his books and the worlds he found inside them. Langston began writing early. In the 8th grade, he was made class poet and his first works were printed in the school's newspaper. In 1920, he went to visit his father. As the train crossed the Mississippi, he thought about the massive river, how Black history was linked to it. He thought about things his grandmother had told him, things he'd read in books about the slave trade, and he crafted one of his first major poems, The Negro Speaks of Rivers. That's the name of one of his poems.
I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient of the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates. When dawns were young, I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep, like the rivers.
He was only 17, but his voice had the wisdom of someone who saw the world for what it was. He asked the reader to consider humanity, not just black or white society. In 1921, the poem was published in The Crisis, a major publication of the Harlem Renaissance. Langston moved to New York to attend Columbia University and became a leading creative voice in the movement. Langston wrote about Black pride at a time long before anyone considered it something to celebrate. Heavily influenced by the blues and jazz, his poetry flowed and had rhythm. In 1923, he traveled abroad, settling for a while in Paris. Upon his return, he worked as a busboy in Washington, D.C. One day, one of his favorite writers, Vashti Lindsay, came in and Langston slipped him some of his work. Vashti was impressed with Langston's poetry and helped him meet the right people. In 1926, Langston's first book of poems was published, The Weary Blues. He was the first Black writer in the United States to make a living off his work. He wrote plays and published short stories and more than 17 volumes of poems. Langston used his writing to appeal to working-class folks, focus on society and racial injustice, and portray Black life in America. Wow. Pretty good. So he turned his passion of writing into his career. Had you heard of Langston Hughes before today? If not, here's your chance to find out more. And let us know in the comments below. Have you heard of him before today? Have you read one of his poems or poetry?
Or not.
Or not. And if you have, which one is your absolute favorite? Thanks for joining us today as we read Little Legends, Exceptional Men in Black History. As usual, make sure you
Give us a thumbs up, turn on your notifications, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss when we post a next video.
and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye!